Hello, good morning. Nice sunny morning here in Phoenix. And I've got somebody online. Who's there? Hello. Mappet? How you doing, Mappet? Go away. Not you, Mappet. The dialogue. So, my name's Seth Hollist. I was a Libertarian Party candidate for a congressional district in Texas, in Dallas area, against Pete Sessions. Did about 5,700 votes that year, which is respectable for someone of my persuasion and party, and a first-time runner against a incumbent who had a district that had just been redrawn and heavily gerrymandered. So he pretty much had it in the bag anyway. Even the Democrat running against him only got like 30-something% of the vote. So I'm here to answer questions. You can follow me on Twitter at Seth Hollist. Question today is, what is a moderate libertarian? I ran as a moderate libertarian when I was running for office. So a lot of people out there have a lot of misconceptions about what it means to be libertarian, which is actually kind of understandable considering the type of people that Libertarian Party can attract. There's a lot of people in that are what you call minarchists, which is kind of like an anarchist, but instead of no government, that anarchists believe in. And anarchist is not lack of civility or lack of rules. It's just that it's a social structure, social rules, rather than a government or centralized ruling. It's more of a dispersed, non-governmental ruling. And then minarchists who believe that there needs to be at least some basic government structure. That there are a lot of minarchists within the Libertarian Party. I've met some that thought the Constitution gave too much power, thought that the Articles of Confederation were a better government type organization, government structure. But libertarians really, you want to look up a guy by the name of John Nolan. Yes, I'll turn left and then turn right. So, libertarians really came out, from what I understand, they were mostly Democrats that were fed up with the way the Democratic Party was moving away from, in the early 1970s, late 1960s, moving away from civil rights activism, which was kind of a misnomer about Democrats, because Republicans have a better track record in that area than Democrats do. But regardless, a lot of people used to follow the Democrats because of they thought they were the civil rights advocates, and they felt that the Democratic Party wasn't doing their job there, and they decided, hey, let's move over to a new party, because of course the Republicans are just a bunch of greedy corporate mongers and crony capitalists and whatnot. But and of course forcing their beliefs down other people's throats. So you can see either of the major parties both love government. They're what you call statists. But libertarians, they thought, we need a real party that really actually focuses on a government that really protects people's freedoms and rights, which is what many of us believe the original Constitution was meant to be. It was really meant to focus on, was protecting people's rights, especially when the Bill of Rights was added to it within the first session of Congress. And really the problem today, of course, we see a lot of is that the Bill of Rights is under attack. The 10th Amendment, I really think, has been ignored for many, many years, centuries, even a century and a half, something like that. But anyway, what does it mean to be a moderate libertarian? Well, I believe strongly in the Constitution, including the amendment process that has changed some things for the better and some things for the worse. Like the 16th and 17th Amendment that kind of justified taxation of income tax, which are really all it did was change the idea that you had to tax proportionately to where they could tax any way they really wanted to. So the idea of an income tax still could have been implemented without it, but they couldn't do it where they disproportionately tax rich people and versus poor people versus middle class, which, if you look at it at a percentage level, it's really the middle class paying more of their income than anyone else, especially the upper middle class, where the rich usually have, money to pay smart people to know how to invest their money and lobby for loopholes and tax breaks, things like that. So they find ways around it. And then the 17th Amendment, which took the sovereignty of the states away and gave it to the people, which now allows the people to basically vote for stuff. What is my congressman or my senator going to give me? What am I going to get out of the government? What am I going to get from them? Thinking that all these government programs really help the poor and the needy, when if you really look at the overall everything that they do, where the money actually comes from and goes from, the majority of the money, you really find that it's really the lower middle class, poorer people in the country that actually pay a disproportional larger amount based on, compared to their income into it. And the middle class get more out of it in comparison to their general income. Take Social Security, for example. Hey, somebody joined Deeply Med. How you doing? So Social Security, for example, first of all, there are much better places to put your money. Much better investment options out there. They're not mainstream common type investments, but there are better investments out there. Because most of your investment brokers, they'll just they'll sell you what they are contracted to sell, what they make money off of, and not necessarily what's best for you. But anyway, if you put your money into Social Security and you're a low-income person, generally you start out lower income, so you're not putting as much in, or you work part-time, so you're not putting as much in, which means you don't get as much out later in life, and in general you die younger, so you don't get to take it out as long, which is the biggest reason Social Security is not a good investment, because once you die, your investment stops. There's no cash value. You get to, oh great, Trump for America, yay. Let's elect a statist that loves to bully people. That's a great idea. That'll get us some real kudos with the international community, which is why we have a terrorist problem today to begin with. So anyway, you die and there's no cash value to Social Security, and you don't get anything out of it, and you're done. Whereas investments, you get to hand that money off to your kids or your grandkids or whoever, charities or whatever. There's a much better value there. So generally, the poor don't get as much out of Social Security as the middle class do, who put more in so they get more out, and they live longer so they get paid longer. And so in actuality, you see a shift of money coming from the poor and going to the middle class with Social Security. So anyway, the 17th Amendment, if I'll get back to that, it took the sovereignty of the states, because the Senate used to be elected by the states, appointed by the states, to represent the states and protect their sovereignty, which was kind of destroyed during the Civil War anyway. And then 1913, when they passed that amendment, it was pretty much done away with. And since we've seen more and more power continuing to funnel up to the federal government. So as a libertarian, what I really want to see is that 10th Amendment reinstated, the 17th Amendment revoked, and the states given back more sovereignty, so that the federal government truly is a minarchist type of a government that focuses more outward, making sure that we have a strong army and that we are protected, but we're not out there nation building or attacking people like Iraq because they want to get the oil off of the dollar standard, or constantly complaining about what China's doing with their monetary funds or their monetary valuation, because they're really doing the same thing. They've already gotten oil off the dollar standard. They're trading it with Russia for rubles and not for dollars anymore, which that is the number one threat, in my opinion, to our economy, is the fact that if we got off the dollar standard, for oil, we would have to trade our dollars for something else before we're buying oil to be imported. And that would cause oil to go up drastically in price. And would probably force us to start going after the domestic oil sources, which are generally more difficult to get to, so it generally costs more to mine it. But if oil prices went up that much, it would become economical to do that. So anyway, another misnomer that a lot of people think about libertarians. I see this a lot. Who would build the roads? Who would build the roads? Well, you know what? The government built roads for a century and a half before we had the income tax. Yes, a lot of them were dirt roads, and a lot of them were probably not very well maintained, but they were there. They were designed for, hand carts and buggies and horse-drawn buggies and things like that most of that time. But the cars came along and cities built roads, states built roads, federal government built some roads. The real problem with the roads is not that we have a authorization within the original Constitution. It's still there for the federal government to create post roads. And I am perfectly okay with that. The problem we have, though, is the way they get paid for is, in my opinion, not the right way to go about it. States do all kinds of crazy things to get federal funding so they can build their roads, and end up doing things that are not economical or cost a lot more money, like mass transit. Mass transit will never pay for itself, because the people who use it wouldn't be able to afford it if it had to actually cost what it would really cost to maintain it, for a ticket to ride it. It'd just be too much for them. Generally, people who use it can't afford a car, and they're not going to be able to afford an expensive bus ticket either, or an expensive annual pass. But, you know, if the cities want to do that, people in the city want to do that, you know, maybe that's okay. But the real problem with the roads is that we're trying to pay for it with federal subsidies, trying to pay for it with income tax and property tax, things like that, when in reality, all you got to do is have a gas tax, a proper, appropriate gas tax that gets used for the roads. Not for schools, not for everything else they can think of, but not, you know, in the general fund, but to actually pay for the roads, maintain the roads. And I'm even a fan of toll roads, if they're done appropriately, if they're done in the right way. Meaning that the toll road doesn't just pay for the toll road. And even in a lot of situations, it doesn't really pay for the toll road. So if it actually paid for the toll road and surrounding roads that give good access to the toll road, as well as an alternate route that doesn't necessarily have to be a freeway or, you know, a high-speed road, some kind of alternate way of getting to the same destinations without having to pay a toll in a, you know, relatively decent manner. That's the appropriate way to fund roads. It's through those means. And if you think your registration fees on your cars pay for toll roads, no, they pay for roads of any kind. They pay for administration costs and all that crap to make sure that you know, you're not polluting the air or something like that. But that's a whole other topic. And if money actually weren't where it's supposed to go, I missed that. I missed the rest of that question. Anyway. Uno Salado de Uruguay? No, I'm not from Uruguay, sorry. I don't really speak Spanish that well either. And so anyway, money. Let's talk about where the money goes. So the money system today is actually unconstitutional. The Constitution says that it has to be created and maintained by Congress, which is not the case. You can say, well, Congress has oversight. No, not really. Why do they have to pass a bill, which is was brought up in one of the presidential debates? Why did Ted Cruz not make it to the vote to audit the Fed? Well, why do they have to pass a law to audit the Fed if they have oversight over the Federal Reserve, which is not a government entity? It is a private entity. It is a corporation owned by a lot of very rich, powerful people who control the monetary system throughout the world. And so it's unconstitutional. It doesn't meet the constitutional requirements for the monetary standard, which is that Congress creates monetary standards. And that, too, doesn't necessarily mean that Congress actually has to make the coins or make the money or anything like that. It just means that they have to set the standards that then banks or coining operations or whatnot, the Treasury, U.S. Treasury could follow. And you could really have a bunch of different currencies based on the standards set by Congress to allow people to trade and do things like that. What we really have today for our money is what you call a banknote, because it's a Federal Reserve bank note. And what the real solution to money is, I don't know. I've heard people suggest the Spanish silver dollar as having been the longest lived, most stable currency that was ever available out there, and certainly that is an historically accurate thing as far as I know, and maybe it would be a good one. Gold is a good hedge against inflation most of the time, not always, but there are issues with really any kind of monetary system for one basic reason: people are greedy. And when they find ways to manipulate the monetary system, they will manipulate the monetary system, which happens with the Federal Reserve. It's happened with silver, it's happened with gold, it's happened with everything. So, I mean, really, there's no silver bullet or silver dollar per se that could really create a solid monetary system out there. There's always going to be issues any way you slice it, but as I said, the big issue I see is the Federal Reserve really is not a constitutionally valid legal tender for the United States, for Congress, because Congress isn't doing their job. They're getting out of their job to set standards for the monetary system by doing that, by giving the Federal Reserve basically complete control over the monetary standards. And I'm almost to work, so I will sign off and talk to you guys later. I'm going to try and do this every morning during the week. So if you have questions for me, sorry I missed that one question. I'll probably review the video and see what it said and do a follow-up tomorrow on it. So stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter @SethHollist, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.